Aloha e koma mai. Welcome to the Beyond Pearl Harbor Untold Stories of World War II, a virtual education program. My name is Tom Leatherman, and I am the superintendent at Pearl Harbor National Memorial. Before we begin, it is my honor to welcome the President of the United States, Joseph R. Biden.
Hey everyone, and thank you for participating in Beyond Pearl Harbor. December 7th, 1941 is still that day that lives in infamy 80 years later. I'll never forget visiting the Uss Arizona Memorial 10 years ago, paying my respects to the 2,403 patriots who lost their lives in that terrible December day, 1,177 on the Arizona alone. Seeing those names described in the marble, sprinkling flower petals into the sea, I brought my granddaughter, Naomi, with me, because we must always remember what Pearl Harbor meant for our country, generation after generation. To honor those who perished, salute the courage of the greatest generation who stood to defend our nation and our values in the world. And remember, all that came after that fateful day. Not only our entrance into World War II, the enormous sacrifices we made as a nation, and the hard-fought victory by our allies, but also decades of diplomacy and international leadership that followed to rebuild a world devastated by war, transform forever former enemies into close allies, and create a rules-based international order that spurred more than 7 decades of relative peace, unprecedented economic growth, and undreamed-of human innovation. So today, as we once more commemorate the courage and sacrifice of those who fought and died in the attacks on Pearl Harbor, we remember the debt we owe all those who put themselves on line for our freedom. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops.
Thank you, Mr. President. Aloha. My name is David Kilton, and I'm the lead of Interpretation and Visitor Services at Pearl Harbor National Memorial. This online program provides us a unique opportunity to bring the story into your homes to honor those who lost their lives. On the morning of December 7th, 1941, the Empire of Japan launched a multi-pronged attack across the Pacific. Military bases in Hawaii, Guam, Wake Island, the Philippines, and other Asian countries suffered many casualties. The attack on Oahu came in 2 waves, damaging all 8 U.S. Navy battleships and destroying nearly 200 U.S. aircraft. The damage to these battleships was a devastating blow to the United States, and although most of them were raised and returned to service, like the USS Nevada, Tennessee, and West Virginia, the USS Arizona and Utah remain at the bottom of the harbor to this day, with about 1,200 sailors and Marines entombed. We would be remiss to not acknowledge the USS Oklahoma, which was the second greatest loss of life that morning and the only other ship that was not salvaged. This online public program poses a unique opportunity to reach audiences across the country and around the world. The December 7th ceremony will be virtually accessible to those who are unable to visit Pearl Harbor National Memorial. It also gives new generations an opportunity to connect with this history and see how it affects us today. Nearly 3,000 service members and civilians were killed during the attack on Pearl Harbor. Another 1,200 were injured, and the United States was drawn into a global conflict that will result in over 1 million casualties for the U.S. Armed Forces and cost many more lives around the world. Throughout this week, we are working with our partners to remember the struggles, the sacrifices, and the triumphs of those who were affected by the war through this online program. Pearl Harbor National Memorial has a different meaning for everyone who visits. For many people, this site represents the sacrifices and tragedies that come with war. Some view it as a reminder to be vigilant in case of another attack. Some are coming to learn and engage with this history for the first time. others come to understand the value for diplomacy and peaceful solutions. Nevertheless, Pearl Harbor is a unique place where military, history, culture, and the environment are all converged and build upon one another. Next, we will hear from some very special guests about what this history means to them. It is my pleasure to introduce two special guests, Mr. Yutaka Aoki, Consul General of Japan in Honolulu, and Tom Leatherman, Superintendent of Pearl Harbor National Memorial.
Aloha. As the Consul General of Japan in Honolulu, I humbly offer my deepest, most heartfelt condolences for the souls of the fallen at Pearl Harbor. On December 7, 1941, countless service members and civilians serving to uphold their noble duty of protecting their homeland had their futures, their dreams, and their hopes brought to a sudden and most tragic end. 8 decades have since passed, yes, but we must never forget the tragedy and its aftermath of that fateful day. And we must never repeat the horrors of war again. This is a solemn vow that we, the people of Japan, have made. This vow, born of the generation of my parents, survivors who themselves lost loved ones in the war, were bestowed upon my generation, and we grew up grasping clearly the horrors of war. During the post-war period, the generation of my parents survived on food and clothing sent by the people of America, and witnessed Japan transitioning back as a member of the international community with the signing of the San Francisco Peace Treaty of 1951 and the joining of the United Nations in 1956 with American support. This generation felt deep gratitude for the kindness and tolerance shown by the Americans, and these feelings were also passed down to my generation. In 2016, the Milestone 75th anniversary of Pearl Harbor, the leaders of our two nations jointly visited the Uss Arizona Memorial. The former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, in his address, offered his deepest condolences for the fallen at Pearl Harbor and stated, "Japan and the United States, which have eradicated hatred and cultivated friendship and trust on the basis of common values, are now, and especially now, taking responsibility for appealing to the world about the importance of tolerance and the power of reconciliation." In the post-war decades, Japan has respected freedom and democracy and has embraced the rule of law while resolutely upholding its vow to never again wage war. Today, two former adversaries in a fierce war have become the closest allies. The US-Japan alliance, rooted in our shared common values, is stronger than ever and stands as a cornerstone of peace and stability in the Indo-Pacific region. I am certain now, more than ever, the presence of this power of reconciliation and the vast magnitude of its reaches. And it is my sincere wish that you, the young people of today and of tomorrow, not just in the United States and Japan, but across the entire world, will come to fully embrace its meaning and significance, as well as the promise and possibilities this power holds. And when our generations pass a torch on to you, that you will take it and build upon the strong foundation of security and stability, cemented into place by the alliance of our two nations, even in the face of mounting global tensions, to ensure that peace will be yours and your children's for the many, many decades to come. Mahalo nui loa.
Aloha and welcome to our virtual event. On behalf of the National Park Service, I would like to thank you all for joining us for this online program. It is a great privilege to be the caretakers of this story, allowing us to preserve this history and to share it with visitors from around the world. We also want to connect these stories with the larger World War II narrative, telling a more complete story of our nation's involvement. The events of December 7, 1941 forever changed the United States and the world. The whole island of Oahu was a battlefield, and there were thousands of casualties in a single morning, marking an unprecedented tragedy in American history. But the story of Pearl Harbor is as much about the response as it is about the crisis. Service members and civilians alike showed incredible fortitude as they defended the island. These were regular people who rose up on the occasion as they were called upon by their nation. In addition to Pearl Harbor National Memorial, there are more than a dozen units in the National Park System dedicated to World War II history. Each of them commemorates a different aspect of the war, and because this year marks the 80th anniversary of the attack on Pearl Harbor and the U.S. entering World War II, we are covering a wide variety of experiences to touch on the many facets of the war. As we explore the complexities of our history, we want to better understand ourselves as a nation. Some of these stories have been largely forgotten, and we want to take this opportunity to honor those moments of courage and perseverance. Every day we are losing more and more of a connection to the past, as the extraordinary citizens with first-person accounts are passing away. We hope this program inspires new generations to appreciate and learn more about these brave men and women who sacrificed so much. Lastly, we would like to say thank you to our partners and content contributors for helping us make this program possible. It is because of you that we are able to further our mission of sharing these stories. Mahalo.
Despite being the second of the World Wars, World War II still had unprecedented consequences. Around 3% of the global population died because of the war, and tens of millions were injured, traumatized, and displaced. Many of these casualties came from some of the most notorious atrocities of the modern era. The post-war years brought significant change as well. For the U.S., they ushered in an awakening to social justice, as well as major economic and technological developments. The world witnessed the rise of nuclear warfare, and as European colonialism faded away, a new set of empires grew and sought to expand their influence. These are some of the more intellectual points of remembering the war, but most of us look back on it for personal reasons. Maybe we're related to someone who served or even died in the war. Maybe we know someone who was victimized by it. But even if we experience these connections only indirectly, the war is still a part of our nation's collective memory. Our society is still grieving from it. 70 or 80 years might seem like a long time, but an event this devastating will take generations to heal. In fact, we are still in the reconciliation process, and some incidents have not yet been atoned for. But in our effort to preserve and make up for the past, we are often thinking of the future. After the war, leaders around the world set out to not only memorialize it, but also to prevent it from happening again. They created the United Nations and the European Union to encourage peace and cooperation. They wrote a Declaration of Human Rights. The U.S. provided aid to help war-torn countries recover their economies. So as we remember and reflect on the war, we might ask ourselves how we will apply those lessons to our future. But first, let's talk about how this program works. We have a lot of content lined up for you this week, focusing on a variety of World War II topics. Pearl Harbor National Memorial and other national park sites were designated to tell the stories that are important to us. With this week's education program, we want to revive stories that might have been forgotten. We hope that, in doing so, everyone will find something new to learn. Through the website at pacifichistoricparks.org/virtual programs, you can access educational videos from the Pacific Historic Parks, Judicial History Center, National World War II Museum, the Smithsonian, Pearl Harbor Aviation Museum, USS Missouri, USS Bowfin Submarine Museum, Defense POW MIA Accounting Agency, Medal of Honor Heritage Center, Heart Mountain Wyoming Foundation, and various national park units. For a limited time, you will also have access to 10 documentaries as a part of our film festival. We will feature live stream panel discussions on a variety of topics that will begin at 2 p.m. Hawaii Standard Time on Monday, November 29th, Wednesday, December 1st, and Friday, December 3rd. On Monday, we will have a panel called Extraordinary Service by Ordinary Citizens. This panel will explore the valor of citizen service members and efforts to acknowledge and honor their service. On Wednesday, our panel titled Blood is Thicker Than Water will explore the ways that segregation shaped American experiences during World War II and impacted the post-war U.S. in major ways. On Friday, our panel titled We Can Do It, Reflections on U.S. Citizens' Response to Entering into World War II will be a great treat. You'll be able to hear the true life story of what was done to support the U.S. war effort from two Rosie the Riveters who lived through it, and reflect on other parallel efforts. If you are interested in participating, visit pacifichistoricparks.org/virtual programs. We have one more acknowledgement to make. It's important to recognize the land we stand on and how our lives tie into the greater story of that land. So as we honor those who died at Pearl Harbor, we must also pay our respects to the people who first lived there. Also known as Kanaka Maoli, Native Hawaiians are the original inhabitants and descendants of Polynesians who migrated to the Hawaiian Islands. As the Aboriginal people of Hawaii, they have lived on and stewarded the land for over 1,000 years. Originally called Pualoa, Pearl Harbor was renowned for fishing. The name Pearl Harbor is derived from the abundance of pearl-producing oysters in its waters. In the mid-1800s, the United States entered into a reciprocity treaty with the Kingdom of Hawaii, which enabled the U.S. to have exclusive rights to Pearl Harbor as a coaling and repair station for naval ships. In the years that followed, things took a darker turn for the Kingdom of Hawaii and many of its subjects. By 1893, a group led by mostly American and European businessmen staged a coup to overthrow the kingdom. At Iolani Palace, less than 10 miles from Pearl Harbor, they deposed Queen Liliuokalani and abolished the Hawaiian monarchy. The ultimate goal was the annexation of Hawaii by the United States, which Congress approved on July 4th, 1898. The Spanish-American War ended a month later, and after taking control of Guam and the Philippines, the U.S. government decided to establish a way station in the Pacific. Within 10 years, the naval base at Pearl Harbor was built. Colonization is not the most flattering side of American history, but there is a direct connection to the attack in 1941. Historical events aren't so much points on a timeline as they are bricks in a building. We are still affected by their impact to this day. So just as we continue to enjoy the freedoms that are the result of the service members who gave their lives, there are also communities who still feel the deep impacts and the loss of their own way of life and heritage that connect with these same lands. Acknowledging the land we occupy is just a small part of amending our relationship with the Native Hawaiians. But if we want to go further in our tribute to them, or to those who served in World War II, we might ask ourselves how history can play an active role in today's world. The men and women who lived through World War II are often renowned as the greatest generation. During the war and the Great Depression before it, they sacrificed conveniences for the needs of their loved ones, their neighbors, and their country. Hundreds of thousands sacrificed their lives. This generation also valued honor. They took personal responsibility for their mistakes and knew that reconciliation was as important as victory. And although the war ended 75 years ago, there will also be conflicts and crises that test our character today. What we do with these challenges can and will affect all those who come after us. So as we spend the week learning more about those who served, we might also think about how we want our generation to be remembered and what kind of legacy we will leave behind. Either way, we hope you find this week's programs both educational and meaningful. And once again, thank you for joining us for this online program. Don't forget to go online to pacifichistoricparks.org/virtual programs to access all the programs that are now available. We hope that all of you watching at home are safe and healthy. We look forward to the day we can all come together again. And we especially want to thank all the veterans who are watching for your service and for your stories. Thank you and happy holidays.